Good evening, class. For my policy presentation, I have picked a policy that's called S661, and it's Child Trafficking Victims Protection and Welfare Act of 2019. It was actually just recently introduced in the middle of March, and it's about a very special population which is considered extremely vulnerable. So it's children that are crossing the border with families and actually get displaced from their families. So this act would actually try to provide enhanced protection for vulnerable children and make sure that they're not getting displaced and that they're not kind of getting lost in a really scary system where, obviously we've heard some horror stories, and the system that's in place now has proved to be problematic. So often children that are either not residents of the US, or they're, born here and then their families, for whatever reason, are not residents. That's the population that this is focusing on. So this act would actually require U.S. Border and Customs to have social workers that speak the language, speak Spanish, or whatever, whatever border it's particularly where they're noticing a lot of immigration going on. They want the social workers and the physicians to speak the language of the vulnerable children, which is really, a no-brainer, because obviously they're going to be really scared, and if they can't understand what's being said, that's really not off to a good start. So I had no idea that the basic rights for these children that they were trying to instate while they were being detained was formula, diapers, a dark place to sleep if they're there, more than 12 hours, which to me, someone with a small child, I can't imagine, a 3-year-old being detained and not having, a place to lay down. It's really, really, really a scary thought that they'd even be in that situation in the first place. It's really we don't criminalize American children for their parents' actions, but in this case, we're sort of criminalizing alien children for their parents wrongly crossing the border. The whole border crossing issue, that's a totally another topic. I'm not going to go there. But once the kids are here, we really should take better care of them. Another thing too that this policy, if it gets passed, would help with would be a database, so that there's actually a way to log where these children are, if there's any incident reports involving the child, if anything happens to them, so it's not like the children are really getting lost here. It would implement mandatory video conferences with family, and it would make sure that these children aren't getting, maybe traumatized at the border and then placed in group homes, or, a frightening foster care situation without proper explanation, and then, they're running away from there or being preyed upon by, someone who would want to abuse them physically, or even for sexual exploitation, which, it's scary, but it is happening. And what kind of piqued my interest in this topic was, believe it or not, an episode of Law and Order where it was based on a true story, but there was a 10-year-old Hispanic child that his mother had crossed illegally. The mother was detained. The child was placed in foster care. She was scared, so she ran away from there, and she was actually found in a sex trafficking ring. Nothing had happened to her yet, but it was just a matter of time. And that's kind of what made me really think and start to research this topic of if there was any policies, on this topic, because it's really horrifying to think. I mean, a child that doesn't speak English, that's lost and scared, where their family's been criminalized, would literally be like, a very easy victim of somebody who had very, very bad intentions for them. Basically living conditions, trained medical staff, reunification of families as the goal, social work services that actually follow the child, and most importantly, that database. So the bill is in an introduced status because it's rather new. It's introduced by 13 Democrats and specifically sponsored by Senator Mazie Hirono. The committees are the Senate Judiciary, and hopefully this really important topic can go a lot farther and hopefully get passed so it can be a formal policy of how we do things, a lot better to help this population. So I'm interested to hear everyone's thoughts, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.